Now broadcasting from the Next Gen Conservative Studio in sunny South Florida, bringing you the latest in politics, current events, and pop culture. This is the Whitfield Report with Sam Whitfield.
Hey there, folks. Welcome to the Monday edition of the Whitfield Report. I am your host, Sam Whitfield, recording here on a Monday afternoon with Mr. Blame Max Sand.
It's not the same without, like, you play the intro first and I get that killer fucking bass line.
Yeah, no. But I mean, the audience will hear the intro because, you know, we'll
so
edit
I
it
just
in.
missed out on it. Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
But anyway, welcome to the show. Real quick announcement. Just some general housekeeping things. Next week there will be no show because I'll be vacationing on to an undisclosed location. So I'll be gone next week, and
An
then
undisclosed location in the Middle East, as I understand it.
Yeah, going to go fight some terrorists or something.
Which side you choosing, Sammy?
Gonna go live out my this book may be
You're
fiction.
gonna go full IDF, like head to toe with Star of David flag?
Maybe. Who?
Or are you gonna rock that Palestinian look, that classic like black mask? I mean, it is aesthetic, right?
Well, what would John Ryder do, huh? You've gotta read.
He'd probably like start taking out the renegades of both sides. Dispense some real justice.
Well, you've got to read Shadows of Deception to find out. So, link in the description.
There you go.
And that's how you plug, ladies and gentlemen, and that's how you plug.
I spoiled it too.
Yeah.
He's a renegade. He's gonna do his own thing.
No. What's worse, Max, is that you've spoiled book number 2, like the book that hasn't even come out yet. You've spoiled. So great going. They already know.
He's a man of principles, right? And so he's gonna want to end the war, but he understands the grim realities of life. So he's gonna have to take out the wariest of the warlords of either side,
And he's also going to have to take on the military-industrial complex.
Probably with some decently cool fucking vehicles along the way.
Yeah. Hopefully.
If not, Sam, you better add some cool vehicles. Because what kind of spy doesn't have cool vehicles?
Well, have you read the...
You can live without gadgets, right? Gadgets might even just be a Bond thing, right? But you gotta have the cool vehicles and like the exotic hot women.
Have you read the first one?
Yeah, but I'm trying not to spoil anything.
Yeah. No, apparently some of the gearheads in the show have like criticized my use of like old convertibles, to which I say, like,
why?
It's fiction.
Was there criticism of you being wrong about something?
Because the 1968 GTO, there was no way it could have been bulletproof because of, like, making it bulletproof would have weighed the car down, and that's...
Yeah, they were pretty fucking heavy, to be fair, but they're probably already, let's say, bullet resistant.
Yeah.
They could probably take a few before that steel hull that they have on them fucking caves in just naturally.
It's fiction though. It's
especially
fine.
Low caliber. Like, you can get away with, it's fiction. It's a fucking spy thing. You got to have something exciting.
Yeah. What happened to suspend your disbelief? We can.
And you went American car because you're not fucking British.
Yeah. I know. And because that trope because the British super spy trope has already been overdone, but nobody has really done the American super spy trope.
Especially like America, like the fucking
Yeah.
American muscle car. Yeah, that's pretty.
I mean,
especially in that time period.
I mean, John Wick kind of did it, but not to the extent that I've done it basically.
I want eagles shooting firework guns with American flags flapping in the breeze. American pie, apple pie, warm as you fucking want, and some hot dogs and a baseball game going on. That's gonna be where your next where the whole thing ends, right?
Yeah, pretty much America. Fuck yeah, because why not?
Unironically, America. Fuck yeah. See, America. Fuck yeah was ironic, but I am unironically America. Fuck yeah.
No, the thing of is like that was ironic, but yet like there are people who unironically are yeah. So anyway,
so on to the communist computer gangster god that was prophesied.
Yeah.
Francis E. Deck in the 50s and his schizophrenia. Anyway.
So look, everyone's been talking like the Middle East and you
got the part where the fucking communist computer government god thing in the sky, it sorts people by their ethnicity. He even got that right.
Yes.
It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's poetic. We live in his nightmare.
Yes. So we
live in a world where Francis E. Deck's worst nightmare, induced by the worst bout of schizophrenia ever that he wrote about for years, is actually real.
Well, what's funny, Max, is we now live in the dark future, except we don't have any neon shit, nor do we have any.
It's not cyberpunk because we don't have the punk part or the cyber. We just got the fucking bad parts. We just got the corporations that spy on everything, and the shady government in business for itself, and the threat of world wars every which way you look. We got all that bit, but I don't have gorilla fucking arms, and I don't have double jump legs, and I don't get an implant.
We don't even have flying cars.
And we don't have the style either. We got Zoomers with them fucking fluffed up haircuts and shit. Awful. The worst cyberpunk dystopia ever.
Yeah, we don't even have flying cars. Like that was the bare minimum was flying cars.
Like the bare minimum among boomers was like, I'd love to live in the Jetsons where we have flying cars and robots. And it's like, well, we got the robots are bad. They don't work properly. And the AI is stupid, but they've still managed to use it to brainwash the average idiot with their fucking DEI shit. And put the computer chip in your fucking thumb, and all it is a fucking GPS tracker. Gee, I wonder what that might be good for.
Yeah, well, and
it's not even anything useful. It's just a GPS tracker, so they can fucking know where you're at. It's not. Don't worry, it's not the government. This corporation knows where you're at. That's fine.
Yeah, and also
and TikTok knows when you take a shit, but that's fine. It's fine because we got what? In trade for this dystopia, we didn't even get cool clothes.
See that
we got stupid rubber fucking boots.
I can
Back to the Future shit. We didn't get fucking cyberpunk shit. We didn't get anything cool. We didn't get Star Trek shit. We didn't even get Star Wars shit.
See, Max isn't sad that we're living in a dystopia. He's sad that we're not living in a cool dystopia.
It's the least cool dystopia you could possibly imagine. We got VR, but it makes me sick after about 15 minutes. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I do love it. I have it fucking right next to me. I play fucking the drums mostly on it. There's this Viking drum game, and I sit there and wear myself out like a fucking maniac. It's a good workout thing for when it's fucking cold and shit, but we don't get anything cool, and then Joe Biden wants to take over. Great. We're going to have the Grandpa Joe AI.
Yeah, so, terrific segue because, And real quick before we get into this article,
ladies and gentlemen, he's gonna make AI do the thing. The thing.
I do want to point out that Max, like, actually, because see, we were talking about this before the show. Like, a lot of people saw the clip of Max taking on Secret Agent Boomer, which is hilarious and should be viewed by everyone. But the part that everyone missed is the fact that, or the thing that everyone glossed over was the fact that Max was saying that boomers in Washington should not regulate this shit for this exact reason.
And then he got mad because he said, well, this whatever topic, I think it was elections, he said was decided at the state level. And I was like, yeah, but look at the state. The state level is full of tech illiterate boomers, not just boomers, period. Okay. But tech illiterate or borderline tech illiterate boomers populate the halls of Washington and the halls of your state house and the halls of your town council. They are tech illiterate boomers. They do not know that their children and grandchildren are like literally being fucking groomed into putting their nudes online by pedophiles that they met in Roblox. They don't know any of this fucking shit. They don't know how YouTube works. They don't know how YouTube censorship works. They don't know how podcasts work. They don't know how the internet works. They have Facebook where they post pictures of their fucking dog.
Max, you're giving them too much credit, okay? The boomers in Washington, they don't even know how to use their smartphones. I kid you not.
No, that's why I'm not giving it credit. They literally have somebody else who posts on Twitter for them. They might say the thing that gets posted. They might tell, oh, hey, blah, 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 blah. But they're not even fucking doing their X's or their tweets or whatever the fuck you want to call it. I'm still going to call it tweets forever. I've been on Twitter for 15 years. They just give me my anniversary thing like, oh, you've been on Twitter for 15 years. My response was like, I reposted it with what a waste of time. You can call it fucking X. You can call it fucking dog shit. It doesn't fucking matter. It's a tweet. And these people, they tweet by saying, hey, Zoomer staffer, you're my tweeter now. Say this, or make a tweet that's funny, or make a tweet that's why they're all snarky now.
No,
that's what Democrats like. They like mean-spirited snarky.
Well,
like
because,
AOC.
Because
to
they
be fair, I think AOC tweets for herself, but AOC's not a fucking boomer.
Well, also, I think here's the thing: is I think they think that like, oh, well, since Trump did it and it worked for him, like, if we do the exact same thing, it'll work for us. And no,
but Trump has been in a different position than them because he's always had goodwill. Like politicians inherently will split people 50-50 about them. Like automatically off the gate, like 40% of the population decides they don't like you because you're the other party, okay? But like Trump wasn't that. Trump was an entertainer. He was a businessman. They all liked the fucking Apprentice. You can listen to all the shit that everyone talked, but they all tuned in live on Monday nights back in the early 2000s to watch The Apprentice. It was the number one rated fucking show almost of all time.
Yeah, no, and listen, I was no exception. I liked the Apprentice.
He wasn't even the entertaining part of the show, to be fair, but he was front and center through the whole thing. No, the entertaining part of the show is people trying to navigate these hoops he's putting them through. But usually you could understand the nature of the hoops, even if it was just kind of a stupid challenge for a reality show. It was a little bit different than Survivor, where Survivor was all themed on being a survivalist or whatever. It was like, hey, you need to convince people to buy this product on the spot. Yeah, no, and you don't even know what the product is.
And as a kid, like me watching that, and a bunch of other people were like, wow, like starting a business is actually like really cool. Like
Shark Tank's still one of the top fucking rated shows in the world, right?
Yeah.
It's a fascination people have with the drama of a small or independent business. Unfortunately, the thing about that is people kind of speak with their wallets in a very different way, and they all, in the end, and we're all guilty of this, go to Walmart instead, or whatever's easiest, rather than supporting small businesses because they cost a little more, and they might not have the thing you want right away, or whatever. It's just easier not to. It's easier to order on Amazon or something. But we're all interested in the story, in the in the drama and the
Yeah.
passion of the small business, and it makes for great television.
Yeah. So, getting back to the subject of AI, I do want to bring this up. I want to start off by saying, and I apologize to the regular listeners for repeating myself, but on the off chance that we have new listeners, I want to emphasize that AI is not going anywhere. It's not a fad. It's basically here
It's
to
been
stay.
around.
Yeah,
It's not new either. We just recently this year had Kurt Doolittle, who's an expert in the field. And speaking of, I was talking about tech illiterate boomers. Well, Kurt's the exact opposite. He was involved with the creation of some of this stuff.
right.
And he has a similar opinion to us on the topic, by the way, in terms of government regulation. So I'm not saying it's boomers are bad. That's not the rant. Max doesn't just hate boomers. There are some things besides technology that I look to that as a generation they did that I'm not a big fan of and have had repercussions. But on the subject of tech, I'm specifically talking about the kind of people that go into tech or go into politics or into the media. At that time, didn't need to be super tech literate, and now they're just fucking basically tech illiterate.
Right.
It wasn't long ago you didn't need a fucking cell phone. I lived in a fucking cell phone free life right up until I had my son, and I was happy and I was fine. You don't need to be plugged in all the time, but now it feels like it's been forever, so that we all are.
Right.
And people that's so new in the span of their 70-year life. And you also don't have a lot of other things in common with them, just so you know, in terms of how you live your life, because they're that old.
So,
but they don't know technology. There's boomers that built this fucking technology. That's why I bring up Kurt Doolittle. We could have him on. He can explain how AI works in exhaustive detail to you because he knows his shit. It's not all boomers. But the people that don't know it, like, I don't know, maybe out of the blue, like, let's just throw a name out there, Joe Biden, now want to nationalize it? Essentially.
Well, let's break down this headline, shall we? So this comes from Variety of all places. Even Variety, like,
because that's where you get proper news now.
Well, I'm
entertainment websites.
Like even Variety knows that this is that something's amiss here. So headline: Joe Biden grew more worried about AI after watching Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, says White House deputy.
Okay.
And this is
first. We have a lot of fucking problems going on. Why the fuck is he watching any movies? At all. Sorry, not sorry. He had a big fucking, and people don't even know this. The other day, like a couple weeks ago, they had a big Sunday barbecue right when the fucking terror attacks had broken out.
Yeah.
They had a band. They had a band on the White House lawn, and it was an end of summer barbecue for Joe, and he had plenty of vanilla ice cream, ladies and gentlemen, just so you all know and you're aware. But no, he saw a movie and then decided that he was scared of AI. Well, did you ever see Terminator?
Yeah, well, this is the whole thing,
you ever
right?
see The Matrix?
Yeah. So President Joe Biden signed an executive order on Monday establishing new standards and security measures regarding
Odyssey. Sorry.
Regarding artificial intelligence. Deputy White House Chief of Staff Bruce Reed told the AP via Time that AI is an issue of great importance to the president, who was, quote unquote, impressed and alarmed after seeing fake AI images of himself and learning about...
Hold up. How much you want to bet what he saw was the president's Let's Play Video Games channel that they got, where him and Donald Trump play video games together? How much you want to bet that's what they showed him?
Oh yeah, the GTA thing where he and Obama and Trump all like rob a bank together or something. Yeah.
It's great. It's hilarious. It's actually kind of wholesome. Like they're buddies, and they tease each other. It's great. But that's like if they showed him anything, I feel like they would have showed him one of those clips.
Right.
And then like, we have to stop this, sir.
Well, that's the whole thing, right? So
We can't have a generation of kids thinking you were playing GTA 5 with Obama and Trump.
So I'm not going to read this whole thing, but essentially what happened was...
Because that might be a disaster somehow for the country if kids think you played GTA with Obama and Trump on a fucking Let's Play channel. It's the worst thing in the world. It's not like we got wars breaking out. It's not like we're funding wars all over the place. It's not like we're starving and poor. It's not like there's fucking homeless veterans. It's not like the fucking... Nah, we gotta worry about the presidents play GTA on fucking YouTube. Great job, and fucking Mission Impossible. Great job, Joe.
I mean, Max, we can laugh, but this is basically like
What else is there to do but laugh?
I know, right? But what
this is the state of things. Joe Biden's sitting there, and they're like, "Mr. President, we have something really important to show you." And it's him playing fucking GTA with Trump and making jokes at each other. And he's like, we need to nationalize AI.
No,
welcome to the machine.
And that is
get our communist computer gangster god that Francis E. Deck prophesied. And so if that's the case, then he's a prophet. And I'm gonna start taking what he said a lot more seriously.
And that is exactly what is going on. So
maybe he did get beat up on a flight out of fucking New York airport and dragged off in the woods. So maybe that happened. I don't know anymore.
So basically, Obama, Biden. Sorry, I tend to conflate Obama and Biden together now.
I wonder why.
Yeah. So basically, you know what? Fuck it. Biden. Let's just make it easy. Biden basically signed an executive order which basically he wants to watermark AI, or he wants to basically like put a label on anything that is created with AI, which may sound good, but here's the problem. Is even the most mundane thing that is it's an egregious First Amendment violation, first and foremost.
But that's the problem, is they let them fucking label video games and movies and albums.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost like you mean well. It's almost like the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah, but no, here's the thing. If you're going to label things with AI, then basically like every paper that I've ever written is now going to be labeled as like created with AI, because
Sam's a cyborg, ladies and gentlemen. At least we got that. In the new world, Sam Whitfield is a cyborg, so we do have a cyberpunk dystopia.
Well, no, think of it this way, Max. So the way
you're cyborg intelligence, that's amazing.
The way I've always written papers, using voice
to text. Sorry.
Yeah, voice to text. That is. It's not AI in the way that we generally think of it, but it is AI.
It is AI in the way we normally think of it. That's the thing, is AI in the way we normally think of it isn't this magical, omnipotent being like the Terminator. That's not what ChatGPT is or ever could be.
Right. Yeah, but no, I speak into...
Explain that to a boomer.
I speak into a microphone.
Well, Joe Biden's worse. Joe Biden's not a boomer. You know this? He's a silent generation guy.
Yeah, no, that's true.
At least Trump is like the bare minimum of like the oldest tier of boomer. You know what I'm saying? But like still, it's all boomers doing the regulation from the top on down. There's only a few people who are like Gen X basically didn't get invested in politics. There's not as many nearly Gen X politicians in these offices. Even in your local vicinity, you might see a few more, but in the national scene, they're almost non-existent. And like millennials are now just coming of age to get into politics. And the oldest millennials have only been old enough to run for president for like a year and a half.
And they're not really interested in running either.
Vivek is the first millennial to run for president under a major party.
Yeah, and they're really not interested in general.
That's not true. That's not true at all. Millennials, no. That's not true. They are interested, but they're older. They're not activists. It's different. They vote. They vote in larger numbers than Gen X and the Boomers did. And
yeah, that is true.
The next election, millennials are the majority voting bloc. Boomers' last election as the majority voting bloc was last 2020.
I wasn't saying that they're not interested in voting. I'm saying that to me at least it doesn't seem like millennials are interested in running for office.
I would strongly disagree. I would say that most of this Trump movement is on the back of millennials.
Okay, well, yeah, that is yeah, actually you're right now that I think about it, because
yeah, it's a big right. Max has never been more right about anything. The Trump brand of the GOP is the millennial brand of conservatism, and will always be that. And we're gonna be the majority for a long time, at least until Gen Alpha.
We'll see then, like
the Zoomers, both Gen X and the Zoomers have significantly less people than us, and significantly less people active in voting. Now, Zoomers, you expect more of them will end up voting and less of them will be activists as they get older, because that's what always happens.
Yeah.
But we still outnumber them significantly. So, millennials are going to be a force in politics, and for good and for bad, because that means the left too. This new brand of more radicalized leftism is a little bit, it's a millennial brand of it, sure.
Yeah.
And it's a counter action, I guess, to the Trump brand of conservatism. But that's going to be the fucking battlefield going forward. And I've said this since the beginning. And it was destined to happen. If it wasn't Trump, it was going to be somebody else, because Rush Limbaugh didn't have 30 fucking million people listening to him every day for no reason. And he wasn't really represented by the Bushes because he said so. He made more money during the Bush administration than he did during the Obama administration, criticizing the Bushes.
Yeah,
he had more listeners at that point because people were fed up. So I don't know. There's a lot going on, and millennials have been affected by a lot of political incidents more than other generations. We had 9/11, we had the war, we had the recession.
It's interesting. It's interesting
we
that
had the election of Obama, which was a big deal, and primarily was on the backs of millennials as well, for better or for worse.
Yeah, it's also interesting that you bring up Rush, because, like a lot of millennials, and I'm one of them. There was a whole generation of kids known as Rush babies. I was one of them because I grew up listening to Rush.
I think it's like two generations, because I grew up listening to Rush with my granddad in the 90s.
Yeah.
Listening to him talk about the fucking deficit. And I'll tell you, the deficit he was complaining about then was a lot smaller than it is now.
Right.
I think we should bring back the fucking dollar bill deficit ribbons. That'd be fun.
Well,
except maybe for inflation now instead of the deficit. A dollar inflation ribbon you wear just to keep people aware, because Ghost Biden's like, it cut it in half. Bitch, it's cumulative.
Well, also though, this brings up a good point. We want to talk about.
It's not like if you cut it in half, it goes down. That just means it went up by a little less. You fucking moron.
Yeah. So, no, it's interesting that you bring up the 90s, because one of the things that that has been brought to one of the things that Rush actually mentioned was that back in the late 80s, there were a lot of Democrats that wanted to nationalize the personal computing industry, just like a lot of them wanted to nationalize AI, because
they wanted IBM. IBM had to play ball.
Yeah, no.
Like to a degree that people don't even understand. IBM, in order to not get nationalized, basically had to nationalize themselves. And that is why IBM is not the powerhouse that it used to be in the 80s and before.
Right.
Because they were shackled at that point. But then they didn't get they didn't nationalize the computing industry, right? So then the competitors who popped up, all these like cheaper manufacturers like HP, Dell, so on, they could use the Windows operating system and sell way cheaper than IBM were using, because they agreed to only use proprietary parts and only blah, 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 blah for American made, American this, American that. All these other companies weren't fucking handcuffed down by that. And they just drove IBM into the dirt. The only thing IBM does now is supercomputing.
Well, no, you want to know what's funny is I was reading that
and like theoretical shit, but they don't make product. Like, when's the last time you bought an IBM product? The 80s, right? You probably never have in your whole life.
I never have. I know that like back in the like right before I was born, I know that my mom had like an MS-DOS machine like in her home office, but that was like in 1990. That was like in 1993, and she had like a Windows computer like at her office, but like having a GUI or a graphical user interface, like that was like a luxury thing, like, you know, back in,
but you could get one cheaper at a very quick pace. The prices, because even IBM compatible still had to follow the IBM deals that they made with the government. Tandy, the Radio Shack one, they still had to adhere to the same rules because they were making IBM compatible products. And IBM compatible products got beat the fuck out by Microsoft and OEMs like Hewlett Packard, Dell. I'm trying to think of some of the other old school ones, but they just wiped the floor with them.
Yeah.
And that was because they got handcuffed down by this government regulation that was done in the same spirit. I'm glad you brought it up like that, because it was done in the same spirit of this computer industry is going to wreak havoc in our culture, so we have to regulate them all. And IBM was like, okay, we can operate under these guidelines. And then all the other competitors who came along later were like, well, they're not going to nationalize us. Why would we follow your stupid fucking guidelines? We can make more money than you.
Right.
Basically, you're our bitch now. And they're going to do the exact same thing with AI.
Yeah. Well,
they're going to ensure that one corporate mega over corporation runs all the AI.
Yeah. And which ironically, Max, okay, so I haven't seen
it's not going to be an American. They're ensuring it won't be an American one either.
Well, also, Max, like, what's hilarious to me about Biden
I hope everybody learns some Chinese.
Well, what's hilarious to me about Biden freaking out about the Mission Impossible movie is I haven't seen the Mission Impossible movie that they're talking about, but from what I've been told, like, spoiler, but one of the whole things is that the evil AI that takes over in Mission Impossible, one of the problems is that it is overly controlled by like one central entity.
Well, yeah, but like you can't expect him to pay attention to a 90-minute film.
Well, yeah, that's true.
You know how many ice creams they had to bring him in the screening of this movie, Sam?
Probably like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
That's
a long time for him. He probably had to poop at least twice.
Probably.
And probably a dish of applesauce with his medication mixed in, too. That's 90 whole minutes, bro.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is if Biden actually
were ancient.
Well, what I'm saying is if Biden were paying attention, or let me put it this way, if any of his aides were paying attention and like actually summarized the movie well for him, they would know that like, no, Mr. President, like regulating AI is what actually caused like this terror attack to happen.
Yeah, but they're communists.
Oh yeah, well that
they want to regulate everything with an AI.
Yeah.
Like what?
So yeah.
Did COVID teach you nothing? That they will jump at any opportunity to make themselves feel like even the most petty of tyrants that's ever existed?
Well, yeah, I know that, but what But what's funny to me is like supposedly Biden is freaking out about the thing that he himself is like creating. That's what's hilarious to me.
True. Maybe he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't care. They gave him an ice cream and a fucking laxative, and he was good.
I do want to play this clip from
He
the
doesn't know what. Like, there's no way he knows the extent of like poverty right now. There's no way he understands it.
No. Well,
there's no fucking way.
He probably to him poverty is probably like not having like the latest.
Well, no,
like,
there is one way. There's one way. If he's a sociopath, which is possible.
I mean, the thought has definitely crossed my mind that that's possible.
Well, I think they're all to some degree a bit of a sociopath. I think you have to be to seek those jobs.
Yeah.
Probably. I think most normal people don't want the fucking weight of that on their shoulders, but unfortunately what that leads to is corrupt and crooked men taking the reins of that power.
Yeah.
And then we watch him fiddle as Rome burns and eat ice cream as inflation goes through the roof and says, hey guys, it was only half as bad as last year. Oh yeah, on top of the last 3 years? Wow, thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
The most inflation we've ever experienced in our whole life happened in 3 years. But it's only half as bad this year. Thanks, Joe. Great job.
And yet regulating AI is like more of a concern to him than fixing the economy.
Well, because he can't. Because then the greenies will be mad at him.
Which by the way, like regulating AI would actually all this is like an excuse to regulate software in general, and I want to play this.
There, bingo. There you go.
I want to play this clip from the LN podcast because they actually do a better job of summarizing this whole thing better than I do. And for those who don't know,
nobody does a better job than the Whitfield Report, sir. Well, but they do a fantastic job over there. What was the show?
The LN podcast.
Yeah, wonderful show.
Which I don't know if you've ever heard these guys, but they're basically a bunch
of not in my life. I have no idea.
Okay, so they're they're venture capitalist
based.
They're venture capitalist guys, and actually, two of the guys on the panel started as like being like fairly liberal, but because of all this woke shit, they've gotten more like conservative over time, which is actually pretty fascinating. I do want to play a clip of.
But their primary interest in this podcast is in the business aspect of it as well.
Yes.
Okay.
So I wanna set this clip because they go over the basically Biden wanting to regulate this stuff, and if you want to jump in at any point, Max, let me know. So I'll queue up the clip here.
No, it'd be interesting to hear it from the business side of things because I have a feeling I know what they're gonna say then.
Yeah,
because it's obvious to anybody in any business that what he's proposing is not a great idea.
Yeah. All right, so I'm not gonna play the whole. I'm not gonna play the whole of this, but I'll play enough of it to get a point. So this is from last week's On podcast, clip number 4. Go.
Let's transition from one bubble to the most recent bubble. So AI regulation, given the frenzy and frothiness and fear mongering on AI destroying the world, which I would personally argue is largely fear porn.
Amen.
The Biden administration took it upon themselves to try and be leaders in regulating AI and published an executive order on October 30th. This long anticipated executive order covers a very broad range of matters in a 111-page order document. Covers very specific actions in very detailed terms.
Yeah, I just want to, one thing is, I have not read the full text yet. It's 110 pages, and I just haven't. But
yeah, 110 pages though, just in general. Think about that.
That's not a lot for an order, but for an executive order, it's kind of a lot. But it is to be fair, it's a complex topic.
It's not a lot, but think of it this way. Like, it's enough to where the average person is not going to bother reading it. And I think that's
Which is why I'm going to read it in full.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm sure most of it is purposely boring and kind of mundane.
No,
and
Max,
doesn't really say much.
What you should
That's
read
how
it.
the government usually writes those things. Most of it isn't even relevant, or it's like explaining who the parties are and what they mean and definitions of terms and things.
How about this? Like, I don't know when we'll do it, but like you should. But like, if you could read it and then kind of summarize it on like a future episode of the show, that would be terrific.
Yeah, some of my tech guy friends have said it's essentially nationalization in the same way as IBM. It was the exact phrase used, which means they're gonna consent to it. The main companies, which I assume would be Google and fucking Microsoft.
Yeah,
and then everybody. They are gonna for a while have an advantage, but like I said, the problem with IBM is when somebody moves outside of that bubble that's restrained by this agreement, they're going to be able to outcompete them, which means that every other country is going to be able to outcompete them now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to point out I haven't read the whole thing. That's a 110-page document, and if anybody expected that I would have read it by now, I apologize because that's a lot, but I will.
I wasn't expecting it because I was just listening to this episode last night and I was like, oh, hold on, this would be.
The thing is I've read a lot of legal documents, and for that reason, the reason I say boomers are tech illiterate is because I've read so many documents related to technology. Yeah, legal documents related to technology where they don't even understand like the simplest of fucking things, but they're making laws about it.
Yeah, no, and that's the whole crux of the matter here. I think is like we have people who don't understand.
And technically, an executive order, as Joe Biden says, and he's the last person who should be regulating any technology. Of course, we know it's a whole team of lawyers writes the fucking thing, right? We're not stupid.
Right.
But technically, what an executive order means is it's an order from the executive.
Right.
So Joe Biden is telling us what we should be doing with AI.
Yeah, great.
Brilliant.
He uses technical terms.
You really know that the guy that shit himself in front of the Pope is your fucking. Go on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
It's an executive order, so it's not legislation. And there's much in here that some would argue needs to be legislated. As an executive order, it can be overturned very quickly and easily by the next administration. It largely demands voluntary action from technology companies to submit their models, infrastructure, and tools.
Voluntary.
For review, for proof of safety.
Don't forget the equity and inclusion.
There's an equity inclusion component, which is that your models have to account for
diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Equity, and inclusion. There's a phrase from the executive order. The term dual-use foundational model means an AI model that is trained on broad data, generally uses self-supervision, contains at least tens of billions of parameters, is applicable across a wide range of contexts, and that exhibits high levels of performance at tasks that pose a serious risk to security, national economic security, public safety, or any combination of those matters, none of which ultimately describes endpoints, none of which describes loss or applications. To me, this is the biggest problem I see with the executive order and with the approach to AI regulation broadly, particularly with what's being developed and has been leaked in terms of what's being developed out of the EU, which is that many of these government agencies, government actors are trying to define and regulate systems and methods rather than regulate outcomes and applications. For example, if you were to say you cannot commit...
No, that's important.
Yeah,
they're regulating the process of cooking, not the food.
Yeah, so this guy, David Friedberg, he is kind of like a younger version of Kurt Doolittle as far as the way he speaks, because he's very into like...
Well, I'm going to judge him on his own. I don't like to make those kind of comparisons, but like what he said there, his concern was that it's most largely voluntary, and people might say, why is that a concern? Exactly what I said, because the companies that agree to this are going to then restructure their company to abide it.
Yeah.
And that's why it's an executive order. If you weren't aware, because he's like, oh, it can be easily overturned and it should be legislated. No, they did it for this way for a reason. They get Google to say, oh yeah, the DEI models and all that in the AI, that was the government made us do that. That was an executive order. We're not responsible for it. No, it's official from the government. They told us to do that. And so they're going to restructure in such a way that that's baked into the cake forever. Fuck whether the thing gets repealed. Of course it's going to get repealed the next time a Republican gets in office. That's not the point. The point is they've already got these major companies following it.
Well, and think about it.
If you want to dabble in AI, you have to agree to abide our fucking terms or we're going to legislate you into the fucking dirt.
Yeah.
That's what this is. It's extorting all the companies that don't want to play ball too.
Well, and think about it this way. Like Google and all these other big tech companies, like I can almost bet you money. I can guarantee you that they have lobbyists in DC
who wrote this.
Yeah, who wrote this to serve.
They wrote it
to serve themselves. Like,
to serve those companies and fuck their competition into the dirt, which is how all this regulation comes about.
And to fuck startups that are like that are starting to get involved in AI. But
in the long scale of things, the double-edged sword is the IBM effect, where now you're handcuffed to the government regulations that you agreed upon in the 80s, and things have changed, right? And the same fucking thing will happen, but it's going to happen faster. Because we have a global economy now, especially with computing. And so all they have to do is just set up their AI operations in fucking Guam. Not Guam, because that's a U.S. territory. But some fucking foreign, in Zimbabwe or something, and they're good. Now they have their AI farm, and they're immune from your regulation, and people can still access it on the fucking internet.
Yeah.
Oh, let's handcuff our own companies. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't done enough of that in the last 30 years. What the fuck? They're outsourcing AI right now is what they're doing.
Yeah, no.
The one fucking thing we have left, they're outsourcing.
Yeah, and one of the guys is actually going to bring that up here in a bit. So, yeah.
Fraud and falsely impersonate someone using software. You can rightly say that it follows the rule of law. And we should be able to adjudicate
that's still
that
fraud.
cleanly in courts. Instead, to have government agencies and have what this executive order describes as a chief AI officer in every federal agency responsible for regulating the systems and methods of all the
not the outcomes,
all the
as he pointed out,
private companies that are building software, to say this is the scale that your software can get to. You can have a certain number of parameters. If you're bigger than this number of parameters, we have to come in and check your software. Creates an outlandish standard and one that makes absolutely no sense, particularly in the context of the pace of AI's progression. Remember, the paper that was foundational to transformer model development, which is what a lot of people call AI today, which has developed these LLMs and so on, came out in 2017 and wasn't really widely adopted until 2018 as a standard. We're 5 years into this. So the way that we're making models, the types of models we're building, the scale of the models, the number of parameters being used, the pace at which these things is changing is staggering. We are only in the first inning. And so to come out and say, here are the standards by which we want to now regulate you, this is the size that the model can be, these are the types of models.
And that's another thing too, is in almost every industry, innovation outpaces legislation.
In almost every industry, they've done the same fucking thing. You look at the movie industry. You look at the fucking comic book industry in the 40s and 50s. You look at the fucking music industry, in the music industry almost up until the fucking 2000s. And including that because the DMCA was regarding the fucking music industry originally. So like every major industry, the computing industry, as we mentioned with IBM, the censorship of the fucking 90s where they wanted to put stickers on albums, like all of this shit moves. They do this every time, and every time it either holds the industry back or it's just a pointless waste of time that gives some government people jobs and money.
Well, let's go back. Let's go back even further. The automotive, and this is way before either of us were.
Yeah, they hated Henry Ford.
Yeah, the automotive industry. The government was trying to hamper the automotive industry. Why? Because the automotive industry would have killed the horse and cattle.
And television is brainwashing the youth, and radio is evil, and the alcohol production is the devil, and literally every industry you can point to in America at some point has been demonized and legislated by people that didn't understand it, and either they withstood that and became stronger because of it, like Henry Ford, or they went with the flow and fucking became a fucking subject to it, like IBM. Either way, they're asking all the companies making the fucking shit now to make that choice. Maybe Henry Ford and fight us forever in legislation and personally suffer greatly. As much as he profited, he fucking suffered in terms of his health and things, his mental health. You fight the government forever, or you're going to be friends with the government and do what they say and sell out, essentially.
Yeah.
Those are your fucking options. And Google, we all know what Google's got. DEI. Yeah, it has to have DEI. Hey, we already had it. As a matter of fact, Google will probably say, we got the DEI initiatives that everybody else can use.
They were the ones who probably included, like, hey, Joe, make sure to put something on DEI.
Yeah.
They were
Microsoft is just like, oh, look, our hands are tied. We got to have some DEI, guys.
Yeah.
We're not bad, though. We're not like them other guys. Like, we're kind of okay. We're trying to avoid the fucking political shit, but we're going to bake it into the fucking cake because the government told us we have to.
Yeah.
They can't even be held responsible. You can't even be like, oh, Microsoft, you fucking, because the government said so. It's an executive order. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And so even when that executive order gets repealed,
in 3 years,
they're going to keep the fucking practices. And that's why he keeps focusing on systems and practices, because it's fucking important. It's not the outcome. The outcome he's talking about, let's say, was fraud, right?
Yeah.
So the outcome of an AI is that they can make a Sam Whitfield AI and have him say some shit you never said, and through that cause somebody to give money fraudulently in your name. Yes, that can happen. That's an outcome of AI.
Yeah.
But that's not how AI works. And it's not like that requires the human component, the person that made that thing to do that thing. Right?
Yeah.
So they're not regulating the fucking outcomes. They're regulating the systems of how you get there in the vague, vain attempt to say, this will make sure that outcome never happens, which it still will.
Yeah.
Because if you understand how computers fucking work and you understand a little bit about code, you can talk them into breaking their own rules very easily, and people do all the time.
Not even just that, but like malicious actors, no matter what it is, malicious actors will figure out a way to get around the laws.
There's already a darknet fucking open AI, like a chat GPT made by like the fucking darknet and criminals. That exists.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure it'll only get better over time, and their regulation will do nothing to stop that.
Yeah, no, that was something that Elon actually tweeted about like a couple of days ago, actually.
Yeah, no, this guy clearly knows what he's talking about, and that's why I can't disagree with anything he said there. And you know, the regulation, if you look historically, it's never helped. It's never actually done anything helping. Did regulating the comic books in the 50s stop serial killers? Because that's what they thought it was going to do.
No,
there's still serial killers, right?
It may,
but they regulated the comic books. How can there still be serial killers?
Because
they banned they harassed Eazy-E, they murdered Eazy-E. Is there still gangster rap? Is there still gangsters? I believe there is. I believe there's still gangsters in the hood.
They were trying to at one point blame violent video games, and I don't want to go too down the rabbit hole because I know that this is, you know,
but they put warning stickers on them. Do you think that government had nothing to do with the fucking ESRB that everybody hates?
Yeah, well, they tried to.
It's the only way to not get regulated. The same with the fucking record industry. It was like they say it's voluntary. It is comply or else.
They tried to,
and then it is a hindrance to you in the future. Now the labels on records, maybe not, because people made them. They rocked them. They were like, I got a parental advisory sticker. We're cool.
Yeah.
We're cool. Okay. But like, that's not always the case. And the ESRB is a good example of it, because oftentimes I think for a while they didn't regulate anything to do with loot boxes in terms of the rating, right? So they were making kids games with what most people consider gambling mechanics. I don't actually care about loot boxes so much when they're targeted towards adults, but target that to towards kids, you could at least put a warning on the label, which is what they ended up having to do, but they got brought to court to do it. But mostly it's a useless fucking system is what I'm trying to say. Nobody makes those decisions.
Yeah.
I think, people let their kids watch rated R movies. They didn't give a fuck. It's the same kind of thing. I mostly try to avoid sexual content for my kid. That's about, like, and really crazy depictions of violence. Like, he's not playing Mortal Kombat. He's playing like Marvel superhero Lego guys, or that's his like favorite game in the world.
Yeah,
or Ninja
kid,
he likes Shredder's Revenge. I also like Shredder's Revenge. So
your kid's not shooting people in the dicks in RoboCop Rogue City, which, by the way, is I finally got a copy.
I wouldn't even have a problem with that. Although it's a very visceral fucking game, it's not all that bad. I just don't think I just don't think graphic violence in a video game is that fucking bad. Because I try not to, like, I'm not trying to avoid showing him that the violence is not the problem. It's the sexual content, swearing, anything to do with politics. I avoid that. He played did you hear of that game when it came out, Slayer's X Wrath of the Slayer or something like that?
I've heard of it, but I've never played it.
It's a boomer shooter that a guy designed when he was 13 in his notebook, and then he became like a developer for real. And when he became an indie developer, he made the game as he envisioned it when he was 13. So with the old school graphics, and he doesn't swear, and it's a boomer shooter. It's kind of violent, and it talks about poop, but he plays that. Like, literally, it was designed by a 13-year-old mind, if you can imagine. Like, he's trying to save his girlfriend, and the cutscenes look like they're made in, like, the 90s, too. It's great. It's a fantastic little game, and he wanted to play that, and I was like, yeah, fine.
That sounds
He's not
hilarious.
playing GTA. He's not playing The Witcher. That's another one, because there's a lot of sex in The Witcher.
Well, yeah.
Like, a lot, like, right out the gate is like a nude scene, right?
Yeah. No, that's how the game literally starts. So, yeah. Morpheus.
I'm much more concerned about him seeing that stuff because he's 7, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, but well, no, the thing of it is if your kid is going to play RoboCop Rogue City, he at least needs to watch the first RoboCop film.
Well, that's what I was thinking, is like, would I say no to him watching the first RoboCop movie, because it's about as violent as the fucking game? And
it is.
Probably not. Yeah, probably I'd let him. Yeah, I'd probably let him watch the movie.
It is pretty, like, that scene where they murder, like, that scene, even by today's standards, it is pretty gruesome to watch. So,
yeah, but it's also a good fucking film, and I don't know. It's not that bad.
It's also
today. If it came out today, it'd probably be rated PG-13.
Yeah, no. It's also RoboCop is also kind of funny too. Like, in some.
Well, at the heart of it all is a good message. Is he's struggling to just serve justice, right?
Yeah, well,
whatever that means for whatever he is left.
Well, and also
he's a good guy in his heart,
and also to maintain his humanity too. So
that's what I mean, right? He's a good guy in his heart, and they can put all the fucking robots in him they want. It still always shines through.
Yeah.
Murphy, not RoboCop.
Yeah, and also your son does deserve to know about iconic actor Peter Weller, because that man is an icon.
I don't know. You know what he used to watch? That's an old ass movie he watched over and over and over again. Was the original Power Rangers motion picture, like the film?
Yeah.
Which I've come to find out, a lot of people say that they think it's really, really bad. I think for a Power Rangers movie, it looks all right. I was a little too old for Power Rangers. My brother was into that, so I thought it was corny.
Yeah.
If your younger brother is into something, it's probably corny.
Yeah, that's generally how it is, from what I understand. I was a lonely child for a long time.
Same thing with Pokemon, right?
Well, no,
Pokemon. That's why I was like, I don't know. It just seems like Harry Potter's another one. I was already reading like Conan the Barbarian and Elements. If you want to talk fantasy stuff, it's a bunch of little kids with wands spitting. Of course, they're British, so they fucking make up words, and that just didn't appeal to me.
Yeah,
I'd already read The Lord of the Rings. I'd already read Elminster, The Making of a Mage. I'd already been reading Dragonlance. That shit seemed pretty fucking corny.
Yeah. Anyway, though,
apologies to the people that grew up on Harry Potter. I'm just saying, I was like a teenager when that shit came out, and it seemed pretty fucking corny.
I grew up in the generation of Harry Potter, and it seemed pretty corny to me, to be fair. So,
but you're a contrarian.
I am very, very much so.
I am too. I hated a lot of the shit my generation liked, but I hated Harry Potter just as much.
And that's why we get along, because we're all kind of contrarians in our little circle. So
yeah, I wish I could be contrary to what that guy was saying, but he's correct.
Nah, well, in the tech industry, they're kind of contrarians too, because they're not super woke, as you'll find out in a sec.
None of the stuff's even going to apply anymore. I'm just really of the point of view, as you guys know, that the market needs to be allowed to develop. If we don't allow our market to develop in the United States, India and China and Singapore and other markets will get well ahead of us in terms of their model development and their capabilities as a nation and their capabilities as an industry. And the more our government actors step in and try and tell us what systems and methods we are allowed to use to build stuff, the more at risk we are of falling behind. That's my general statement on the matter. I'll pass the mic. I mean, Shamak, you were advocating for AI regs a couple months ago, I think, right? I mean, where does this fall with respect to what you were advocating for and what you were concerned about?
Well, I had a very specific lens that I viewed this stuff through, and they didn't really address it. I think that this was a little bit of a kitchen sink EO, and I think what probably happened was, depending on, look, I mean, I think the thing is, like, look, when this process first started, it started in the Senate, and it started with the Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer. And I met with Chuck, and then I met with Chuck's team, and then it morphed into this much bigger thing. And I think it morphed into a lot of people trying to do the right thing, meeting with a lot of very important and very famous people. And I think somewhere along the way, it just became this convoluted and confused document, because I do agree with you that it's not super coherent. There's a lot of arbitrary requirements, like I think there's a requirement here that at a certain number of parameters, you have to like self-report yourself to the government, which is like, what does that even mean? Why is that even important? So it's just a lot of random stuff. So it just seems like anybody who had the ear of the people writing this had a chance to write something in. So it's a little confusing. It's not going to do the job. And I think that you're right. In 2 or 3 years, we're going to look back and this is going to look medieval.
I'll point out another point, just one of many that I could highlight in this document. I read most of it.
Hold on. Sam,
they say there's got to be legislation on.
Before he got introduced as you supported regulations a few months ago, correct?
Yes.
And he just said these are going to look medieval.
He's also the guy who
he's pro-regulation. I just wanted to point that out as simple as possible. He's pro-regulation, and he said this is medieval.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take his word for it, having not read it, but like that's a pretty harsh condemnation from somebody who was for regulating AI.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of these people who were pro-regulation are starting to kind of wake up and see, oh, this might not be such a good idea after all.
Because they don't relate it back to IBM. They don't like in their mind. They're a different thing, a different industry, different time. They might not even know the story.
Well, David Sachs, who you're going to see here in a sec, who I bring up often, he does bring up IBM into this. So.
I don't want to shit on IBM as a company. Like they've succeeded despite all that in their own various niches since then. Like I'm not trying to down them because honestly, IBM is an American institution company of the 20th century.
Yeah.
Like people don't even realize how influential that company was until regulation, and they've managed to survive to the current day. But you're not using an IBM computer, and neither am I.
No. Well,
neither is anybody listening to us. Neither is anybody basically on the entire internet.
And I think though that goes to show though, like, yeah, we're not trying to shit on IBM, but IBM is kind of like, it's the nearest thing to a case study, to like an actual like tangible case study for a lot of this stuff that we can reference. And that's kind of what Sachs is going to bring up here in a sec.
Or the DMCA to the music industry and its collapse. Now everything is fucking independent. They hire people independently. They get their music onto iTunes and they just take a cut off of fucking royalties. The whole fucking thing collapsed. There's no record sales.
Yeah.
There's no record stores. Right? They had to restructure the whole thing. That's because of the way that they went about the battle with Napster and online piracy and then the rise of streaming services. And then everybody, all these old time musicians were like, now that nobody's listening to us on the radio, everybody's listening online. Wait a minute. I ain't making nearly as much royalties as before. What the fuck's the deal? Turns out that they all signed off on these streaming services for a nickel, basically.
Yeah.
And they undersold all these artists' catalogs to them. That's why you might think that some of these artists are being pricks, but first they were getting their music stolen from them, right? Just flat out stolen. I understand that everybody does the file sharing thing. I've done it too. And piracy is piracy. You're stealing. So imagine the other end of it. The musicians, they start losing money because you're fucking stealing their music. And the next thing they know, they settled that, came up with a legal solution for streaming their music. And then people are basically fucking stealing from them too.
Yeah.
Because it turns out they're paying them like they'd get like 30-40% off a radio play. They're getting like 3% off of streams, or they were. That's why they all kind of went on strike for a while. And even though some of them are pricks, and even though some of them, you think they have enough money, they're right, though. They got screwed because these companies signed away all their rights. While they were not thinking of the online streaming service. It was still album sales.
Yeah.
That's why it's like a lot of old-timey, big-name artists that were doing it. Because they're the ones that got fucked. And whether or not, they're fucking like Madonna, a prick with more money than you could fucking ever imagine, it's still technically taking her shit. You know what I mean?
Well, there were a lot of bands who, like, King Crimson was one of them. King Crimson, for a long time, they did not distribute their songs on iTunes or anything like that. But what they did do is
Tool was like that for a long time as well.
Yeah, what King Crimson did was they set up their own like online web store thing.
Right, but that and a lot of artists, particularly smaller scale artists who have dedicated fans, find a lot of success online independently.
Right.
But the whole industry has just changed because of it, because of the ease of streaming as compared to, like, nobody carries around a stack of compact discs anymore, or even, the sillier is a little folder full of them, right?
Right,
because you just have your phone. It's easier. The convenience is ridiculous in comparison.
Yeah.
Nobody even thinks about compact discs anymore. My wife had gotten some like old shit from an old lady at her mom's building or whatever, and amongst the things was a fucking double disc set of like the greatest hits of the Doors, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Where the fuck would I play that?
No, my grandmother, and she meant well. She got me a cassette tape of one of U2's albums, and it's like, well, that
Based.
and it,
Cassette is an interesting thing too. I've seen like a lot of like really indie type artists and like vaporwave actually distribute their shit on cassette.
yeah, and I mean
That's like a weird nostalgia because cassettes are objectively in every way worse.
well, yeah, but also like
I should have cassette nostalgia. That was like my era. I had so many cassettes.
yeah,
But like cassettes sucked.
yeah. Well, and I mean, as far as like the vaporwave thing, like thematically, like the whole cassette tape thing, like that is part of the vaporwave aesthetic, I guess. So as far as that whole thing goes, like I get it from that perspective, but yeah,
cassette tapes don't have a sound because it's still just a digitally magnetized file. Like vinyl has a sound, and the reason vinyl has a sound is that they had to compress everything.
well, yeah,
And then the needle's movement is supposed to decompress the file so that they could fit it on a record.
yeah,
But as soon as they came in with the magnet tapes, like 8-tracks and stuff, that's different. So there's just a cleaner sound on tape. That's what people say when they feel like modern music doesn't sound as good. The older music was lower decibel, generally speaking, but it had that sound because of vinyl. And if you listen to it on vinyl, it does sound good.
yeah.
I still think like a digital, like a high quality, like FLAC file is probably like the optimal way to listen to any record if you really care about it.
Yeah. Oh,
But,
yeah.
vinyl's good too.
It is.
Especially through a speaker. Vinyl is great through a speaker.
Yeah, and I mean, I've listened to FLAC files. The problem
But
with
headphones, you want the highest quality file. You want digital if you're listening on headphones.
FLAC files is FLAC files are like massive too, though, and like a lot.
Yeah, but like the size of storage, they're getting more trivial all the time.
Yeah.
But also, you're like that. It's a cost for quality.
Right.
You know?
No, I'm right. I'm not saying it's an issue for me, but like, for the average normie, like, they don't want to.
MP3 with headphones is fine too.
Yeah.
Like that's a decent level. Like if you want the highest quality, you got to get yourself like a FLAC of the master.
Yeah. So, anyway, though, yeah, getting back to IBM, though, this is one of the things that they're going to bring up, what you were saying, IBM kind of being the case study for a lot of this. So,
on watermarking AI content. Think about that for a second. What is AI content? We've been using Adobe Photoshop for 30 years to change photographs and change documents. We've been using various tools for doing audio generation and music. I mean, there's no music that doesn't run through a digital processor of some sort. There's no video, there's no movies that don't have some degree of CGI elements or some degree of post-production digital rendering integrated into the video.
Even old music, okay? Even old music went through digital processing.
yeah.
Going back, I think, to like the 30s when they used like 1 and 2 tracks.
Yeah, no, this is what I'm saying is like Biden and company don't understand. That's what I was saying earlier. When Kurt Doodle says that these people
go back and they raised the fucking bend and the equalizer and the treble before they fucking put it out on a record.
Right, it
was done digitally since the dawn of fucking music.
Yeah, that I mean, all that is
recorded music. As soon as we had recorded music, somebody said, "Hey, how can I clean this up to make it sound the best possible?" And they did so in a digital setting, usually using tape, reel to reel.
Yeah, I mean, all of that is like a form of
which, as I said before, tape is fucking digital.
Yeah, all of that technically is a form of AI if you want to think about it.
By that definition, yeah, that's why I wanted to stop and really explain that. Is that what fucking what's his face? Fucking Thomas Edison's old radio transmissions are AI.
Yeah.
Needs to be watermarked, Edison, motherfucker.
Yeah, well
Watermark every radio broadcast ever.
We'll talk
Watermark every television show in the history of fucking humanity.
We'll talk
every movie.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's another guy who like fought regulators like tooth and nail throughout his entire life.
Man, the government can just regulate everything now.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty, like, for a guy like Vosh or something, that's pretty based. Like, he would love that.
Oh yeah, he'd create.
This is some straight, like I said, like, I'm not joking when I compare it to Francis E. Deck and the communist computer gangster god that lives on the moon. Like, what's the fucking difference? And it sorts us by race, determining who gets what.
Yeah.
The only thing he missed is gender and fucking sexuality. You gotta throw that in there too. And disability status and all that. DEI is a bit more complex than Francis E. Deck's 1950s schizophrenic mind could come up with. But Lord help us, he came up with the communist computer gangster god.
He came pretty damn close. Like,
if you've never listened, there's an old radio DJ that read Francis E. Deck's letters. You can find still on YouTube to this day. I highly recommend just looking up Francis E. Deck on YouTube and listening to it because it's highly entertaining. But it's also chilling because the communist computer gangster god is now real.
The first time I heard
and it was designed and perpetrated by Joe Biden.
Don't you just love this timeline we live in? It's great, isn't it?
Hey, at least the president that controls AI is retarded.
Silver linings, Max. That's what I love about you.
It's funny, right? So, like, at least that.
Yeah.
At least we can say that he's retarded, and he'll like inadvertently do something hilarious, like poop in front of the Pope. You know what I mean? Who would ever think that the president would take a shit in his pants right in front of the Heavenly Father? Excuse me, Father, for I have sinned.
Well, I mean, he's incontinent. What do you want from him?
Yeah, no, that was a holy shit.
Yeah.
What makes something AI? Is it the fact that 100% of the pixels are generated by software? What if it's only 98%? Is Pixar AI? Because all of Pixar is made on computers. Is the auto-tune hip-hop artist AI? Because his voice isn't coming through on the audio track. So what is AI in this definition? The fact that any piece of content needs to be watermarked if it's AI, I think is one of the most outlandish infringements on First Amendment rights I've seen, and doesn't really understand in any sense how software is generally used in the world today, which is frankly everywhere. And to say that
on
now
music
there is a certain
would mean like
definition of a certain type of software that
my god, watermarked on music would mean like because like they do that sometimes, like guys that make beats, and they'll be like just really loud and obnoxious so that you can't use the beat for anything.
Yeah.
They'll be like DJ 5 on the mix.
That's
what they're talking about. You're gonna have AI every fucking 15 seconds over every song ever. Enjoy your Joe Biden regulations. Yeah. It's gonna be like this song made by OpenAI.
This song.
Get low, get OpenAI.
Yeah. No, it's
you're having a party. It stops every 5 seconds to say OpenAI.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. The worst fucking regulation ever.
Yeah.
Arbitrarily call AI. We want to watermark this stuff, and we want to get a stamp on that content so that the government can track it and audit it, I think is absurd. Sachs, over to you.
Yeah, okay.
So Sachs is kind of the base one. He's the Trumpian guy.
He looks very like mafioso.
Yeah, well, he's one of the co-founders of PayPal, and he
that explains the mafia look.
Yeah. Well, no, he and Elon Musk are and Peter Thiel are part of what's known as the PayPal mafia. Actually,
Yeah,
and
well,
so
he's their Iceman.
yeah, no, the you're not wrong. The mainstream media has literally called him like the tech world's Iceman or something like that. It's funny,
I
actually.
saw him for 3 seconds and I was like, gangster.
Yeah, no, he's about to drop some straight facts on IBM, all of what you basically just mentioned.
For one, AI has been convicted of a pre-crime. This EO, it describes this litany of horribles, this parade of horribles that's going to happen unless the wise people in the central government like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris guide its development. So that's what the EO says it's going to do, is guide the development of this technology. Because if we don't, it's going to result in all these horrible things happening. Steven Sinofsky, who was a key executive of Microsoft in I think going back to the 80s, wrote a really interesting blog post about this, where he was there at the beginning of the PC revolution with the dawn of the microprocessor in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And he pulled a bunch of books off his bookshelf from that time period, which were sort of these sci-fi books like Forecasting Doom, Infringement on Privacy. One was called The Assault on Privacy. Another one was called Electronic Nightmare. Another one was called The Rise of the Computer State, and so on. And so it was also predicting all these horrible things that would come from the birth of the computer.
That's one thing I wanted to bring up too. Yeah, so like this whole fear around...
Look at this. The Rise of the Computer State, forward by Walter Cronkite, the most trusted newsman in the world. He told you the computers were going to take over the whole fucking world in 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Very, very trusted newsman, boomers.
Yeah, so and that's...
He also was like the biggest advocate of climate change when they used to call it global warming, and when they called it fucking global cooling, and whenever they called it something, Walter Cronkite was at the forefront of that.
No,
he's like the leader of the green movement.
No, so I actually
he's their Martin Luther King.
So like I don't think Kurt had its DMs open, but I did try and send this to him because
no, we'll talk to him.
But Kurt actually mentioned this, that like there were books out there in the 80s like talking like how bad like computers were going to be. Like this was not like we look at these
That's
books.
why my rebellious ass got into like hip hop, Dungeons and Dragons, metal music, and computers, because they were all the devil, but they were all actually pretty cool.
Yeah, no, and like now, now we look at these books and laugh, but like back then, like this was kind of like the fear.
I mean, not the same, but similar. The fucking movie with Tom Hanks about Dungeons and Dragons and the kid that went missing.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Years later, made our life miserable playing D&D in middle school with my boys. Like, we had to hide. Not from the kids. The kids didn't give a shit. They knew we were nerds. It was the parents. Inevitably, one of the guy's parents, which sometimes would be mine, would flip out because they heard about the Satanic Panic 10 years later.
That
made it cool. It made it cool. But computers, to me, were also cool because they were outlaw. And the guys building them back then were kind of outlaw in their own way, too. Like, you look at a lot of their stories, and they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
They're pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, people love to...
What's his face? Al, I think his name's Al Jolson, but the guy that founded fucking Atari, you read his fucking autobiography, that dude was nuts, like a rock star, man.
Yeah. Well,
they lived wild, and they gave no fucks what the corporates were telling them because they didn't have to at the time. It was a pretty cool time in like computer development.
Yeah.
And the government came along and IBM'd them all.
Yeah.
Right up until Blizzard started having like drunken cubicle crawl panty raid parties,
Yeah.
Then it all came rolling back in.
Good times.
Like the old days.
And it would put all these people out of work and so on.
Totally.
But nobody allowed these fears to guide the development of the industry. There was no executive order at that time saying that we're going to guide the development of the microprocessor to avoid all of these harms that haven't occurred yet. And instead, we're taking a different approach here. And he makes the point that if the industry had been guided in that way, then it never would have achieved the potential that it ultimately achieved. And furthermore, he makes the point that a company like IBM would have been more than happy to work with the regulators to say, yeah, let's define a bunch of these rules to make sure that it doesn't go in this dark direction that everyone thinks it's going to go in. And you would have gotten very extreme regulatory capture.
Can I precog one of the crazy lines in this thing? Here are the precogs. Well, here's one. When a foreign person transacts with an infrastructure as a service provider, so Azure, Google Cloud, Amazon, to train a large AI model with potential capabilities that could be used in malicious cyber-enabled activity, they propose regulation that requires that IaaS provider to submit a report. So if you have to know, you have to know if a foreigner is using your APIs on AWS and then file a TPS report.
Oh my God.
Fucking TPS report,
I have a
indeed.
clarifying question. What happens if you're a foreigner that's on an H1?
Did you say something?
Yeah, I said a TPS report, indeed, because it's basically saying the foreigner transacts, we'll keep that on file for what? Mostly for nothing.
Yeah. Well, that
like 99.9% for no reason at all.
Yeah. So I mean that's basically the gist of what I wanted to play.
They'll say terrorists, but how many people transact any industry with the United States company every day from either a foreigner or an American resident, as he was pointing out, on an H-1B visa?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying too. Is like they're so afraid of that, of foreigners interacting with AI, as if we're the only ones pioneering AI. It's not as if China or I don't know, Saudi Arabia, it's not like they have tech startups either.
Well, and China is going to centralize theirs. They are going to be the communist computer gangster god, whether we like it or not.
They already are.
Mm-hmm.
They already are in their yeah.
It'll be interesting to watch unfold further, but it's pretty fucked up now.
Yeah, no. What do you think the social credit score system in China that we keep hearing about? What do you think that's all about, folks?
It's all AI driven. That's what I mean. They are going to be the one. If we don't compete and have the freedom version of that, then then we all have the communist computer gangster god when it wins.
Yeah. Yeah,
and it sends all your data to the moon base.
Yeah, well,
just like Francis E. Deck said. Everybody laughed, but at least they're fucking sending it out into space and to the fucking satellites. And he wrote that before Sputnik.
Yeah, no, I actually heard those Francis E. Deck things a long time ago in some of Medicare's old streams, actually, because Medicare used to play those. I can't remember which exact.
Yeah, anybody into weird radio would have come across it at some point. It's like one of those things, and because it's just such an interesting, not only the writings of the man, but the guy reading them with such enthusiasm and passion, as if he almost puts himself in the mind state of the madman.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah,
but then it's not so great when you get older. And you start to see the computer gangster god, the communist computer gangster god is starting to be real, like a thing, and he's not a madman anymore. He's a prophet. That's not cool. I never wanted to live in the timeline where Francis E. Deck is a prophet, but Joe Biden is going to make that happen.
Yeah.
While he eats vanilla ice cream and drives us all into poverty. And then sends our kids off to war for either Israel or Russia or somebody.
And also shits his pants while doing it too.
Talking to the Pope. I do say that God has a predilection to favor the funny. And I mean, this is all very funny. But it's not ha-ha funny. It's sad funny.
Well, no. What God never tells you is that he does have a sense of humor. It's just the very dark and fucked up sense of humor.
If I were God, I would find all of this hilarious.
Yeah, but see, like, you.
But maybe God's better than my soul could ever be, and that's the whole point. But I find it hilarious.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But
because there's not much else you could do. I was just I asked my wife a question. I was like, "What do you think our most viewed episode of this whole year was?" And she had no idea. And I was like, "That's when I talked about going camping for the whole like 2 hours."
yeah,
Because everybody's sick to death of doom and gloom. So then what are you going to do? You look at this and they're going to regulate AI. Well, yeah, Google and Microsoft are going to jump on board because they wrote the fucking thing.
Well, no, but
and everybody's going to be left in the dust until they get out competed by somebody from somewhere, whether it's here or somewhere else.
The whole reason why I wanted to bring this up, though, Max, is because right now everyone is talking like Israel and Palestine and that whole thing, and meanwhile, right at home,
no, the tech sector is in a couple of crises right now. Also, the chip wars is a big deal, and while everybody's paying attention to everything else, China makes moves on Taiwan. They've been making aggressive moves for quite a long time.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, TSMC is claiming that the fucking manufactories in Israel are never going to make, like, they made it like a joke. The manufactories are never going to outcompete them because they're already at 3 nanometers, and it's like basically fucked up. But there's manufactories being built elsewhere, but it's going to take time for them to get on board. So right now, everybody's dependent on Taiwan for chips. Microprocessors, as he pointed out.
Yeah.
The basis of all of this shit you see before you in the dystopia that I've described thus far, including how you're listening to our voices right now, is dependent upon the microprocessors. And we are currently only able to get them from Taiwan. And China is basically threatening to blockade Taiwan. Now, not open war, but would probably lead to it.
Yep.
Unless we can hold out the supply chain until Intel and some other partners can get online in other parts of the world. But the supply chain still depends. Part of it depended on getting in contact with North Korea, which Trump was trying to do. That was kind of part of the point because they have natural resources, rare earth minerals that they're selling to China, but China's selling to us. So Trump's idea was, hey, maybe I could talk to this weirdo and convince him to just sell them to us and make his country a fortune, and he can still keep his totalitarian dictatorship because it ain't worth it, but at least we'll be on peaceful terms.
Right.
Which is called a compromise. And yes, it's still a horrible totalitarian dictatorship.
Well,
but at least the people there have some more money.
Well, just
in an industry,
just bomb them, and that'll like liberate them. That's what Nikki Haley wants, at least. So
yeah, we're just gonna bomb everybody. That's the way to settle it. Yeah, it worked so well in Iraq. You know how we have the access to their natural resources in Iraq that we went over there for? Oh yeah, that worked out fucking great, didn't it? How much is gas, Sammy?
Oh God! Like,
was it worth the war?
Like $4 a gallon now? Yeah,
And how much was it? How much was it before the war?
Fucking.
I was in high school. I can tell you, my sophomore or junior year, it was 89 cents.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
89.
And then the war happened.
How much was McDonald's?
The war for oil, remember?
How much was like fast food back then? That's what I want to know.
Oh shit, we had like the dollar menu. Like the actual, when it was actually just everything was like $1. And they had good shit on there half the time.
Yeah.
No, everything was fucking cheap. Me and my friends would drive around. That was our fucking hobby. We would drive around listening to music and eating fast food.
Did you ever spend $10 for one person on?
No. 5 would have been the absolute max if you were being a fat ass.
Yeah, that's kind of my point. Is like,
And like a pack of cigarettes was like $2.
Yeah, it's like, that's my point. Is like now, like you go to McDonald's and just like a single meal, like once you add everything up, is like close to like more like $10.30, cents.
It's definitely on the higher side, over 5, close to 10, almost always.
Like,
yeah,
like you can't afford to be a fat ass at McDonald's anymore, even if you want to, because
yeah. I don't know how people do it. Yeah, I see people that like eat like that, and it's like, I mean, look, McDonald's is fine. It's like once in a while, I don't feel like cooking. It's fucking a Friday night. The boy wants a pizza. That's usually what we do is a pizza. But that's rare anyway. I usually just cook my own shit.
But it's also expensive.
It's still that, like the price of chicken, which is like my main meat, because I got a heart condition. I can only do red meat a couple times a month, and the price of chicken is almost doubled in the last, like, I want to say 3 years.
Yeah. It's not cheap. That's for sure.
It used to be the cheapest meat, but also like it's lean. And I get the boneless, skinless breasts, and they're perfect, right?
Yeah.
But now it's to the point, like, that's actually an expensive endeavor. I have to plan out every piece of chicken to make sure I have enough. I have to count.
Yeah.
I never had to count, but like they're double the fucking price, and it's not like I got double the fucking money.
But hey,
if I had double the fucking money, then it might be fine.
But hey, no more mean tweets, right, Max? Let's just point to that beautiful flag you've got back there. I think that kind of sums up the whole. If we haven't made it clear yet on this show, if you don't take anything away from this podcast, don't look at me. Just look at Max's flag. In the
and it's been up since fucking 2020.
Yeah.
As soon as I had to change the number on it, this will be the third time I vote for Trump. No matter what, people have asked me. People have put me on this. Well, what about if Trump's not there? I'm gonna raise his name in. Well, what about, who do you think is the chaos candidate? Trump.
It'll be
that's who the chaos candidate is.
It'll be the third.
But it's good chaos. It's the chaos we need. Look, if you're hearing my voice, you're a little poorer than you were fucking 3-4 years ago too. I guarantee it, because ain't rich people listening to this fucking podcast, because they would be put off by how much I kind of shit on them.
Yeah,
it's probably hardworking people.
No,
like myself, who find themselves, they were in a good spot a couple years ago, okay? A really good spot, in fact. They've maybe bought a property for the first time, or a car, or they finally, because we lived under the Obama recession for a fucking decade, and we finally started to have some fucking money.
Yeah, no, there are a lot.
And now, everything costs twice as much, but you got pretty much the same amount of money.
There are a lot of young entrepreneurs who listen to this, show, and they can't start their businesses,
Right, because they're going to get regulated right out of the fucking market by goddamn Google and Microsoft, who wrote this legislation to specifically keep them out.
Yep.
This is them trying to close the door on your ass and everybody else who thinks independently from the DEI fucking cult.
Yeah, they're going,
and the leftism that comes with it.
Yeah, they're going. Oh, and by the way, I love this this whole notion from like the Lincoln Project types that think, well, Trump was so radical, he like exacerbated the DEI. No, he exacerbated the DEI. No, motherfuckers. What happened was, if anything, Trump halted a lot of the DEI stuff, because all of this woke stuff, the woke stuff did not happen because of Trump. The woke stuff.
Well, it happened in response to Trump. They weren't nearly this woke. They weren't nearly this woke until Trump. Like woke had just come around, like between the 2010s and like 2015. But what galvanized them, what gave them a cause, what gave them an enemy, was their Voldemort, as they used to call him, their Satan Trump.
Maybe
it was a movement without a real fucking defined goal until Trump, because they decided he was against everything they stood for, and they stand for virtue and goodness and freedom and equality and all this fucking bullshit, and he stood against them in every way.
Maybe Trump accelerated it, but my point was like,
no, he galvanized it.
He galvanized
it. One movement. It was many before.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that like Hillary Clinton was going to push this stuff regardless if she were.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have been a culture war front and center like it was, because they used that as a means to attack Trump.
No, because
publicly, and to excuse any bad behavior, including rioting, looting, theft, and yes, murder.
Yeah.
In the name of these causes, because Orange Man bad. Like, we all joke about it, but think about the root of that fucking joke. It's true. He gave them a boogeyman that turned a bunch of loose movements, that one was about racial equality and one was about, because they're only really interested in their own thing for the most part, or they were prior to the Trump years. So BLM wasn't hanging out with the LGBT shit. But then there was Trump. There was one man that they could fucking all agree was the worst man in the world.
The thing that's wild about this too, and this is something that like I was talking with my Israeli friend a few weeks ago, was all these woke people went from complaining about anti-Semitism to now like actually like they're now like unironically allying themselves with like actual like anti-Semites, and it's not just
what I don't understand about both sides, to be honest with you, is the complete lack of empathy for that some people on the other side might just be kind of caught in a bad place.
Yeah, I mean,
right. Like, I'm not going to say every Palestinian is a Hamas flag waving fucking
No, I'm not
Islamist. And especially children, like, even if they are, they kind of can't help that. So like, but the same with the Israelis is most of the people getting hit by rockets and shit and ambushed ain't exactly fucking soldiers.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that, like, and I'm not.
Oh, I'm not saying you are. I find it crazy that that's the choice people want you to make, is to give up empathy for one side.
Right. No, and I'm not.
It boggles my mind how fucking tribalistic that is. It's scary.
And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. Yeah. I'm not saying that,
and I can't say it's like not right for Jews to be scared of that, because that's a scary sentiment.
Right, but what I'm also saying is that, like,
I am a fucking full-blooded Irishman, and it's a scary sentiment, you know.
But what I'm also saying is that the far left was always like, trying to hug Jews, and being like, we're not anti. They were like
a lot of Jews are on the far left,
Yeah, well,
that's and the Nazis will point to that to say like they're the ones ruining the world or whatever. But like, it is a fact that a lot of specifically Reformed Jews from like the New York area do tend to typically be of the like far left variety.
Well, would you be shocked if I told you that like David Duke? Here's a news story. David Duke is now saying that, like,
I was hoping you were going to say dead. Go on.
Is now saying that Rashida Tlaib is like his new favorite person in Congress. Have you?
Oh, I bet. And the thing that's interesting with that is like him and like Richard Spencer and them will like attach themselves to causes because they know nobody wants their endorsement.
Right. But
just to get attention for them fucking selves because they're sick.
No. But Max, here's the thing. Remember when David Duke like said something out Trump, and the entire left was like, even after Trump like disavowed David Duke, they were still like not good enough because David Duke like mentioned your name, and just the fact that you mentioned So, like, I
Trump quit the fucking Reform Party because David Duke endorsed Pat Buchanan. This is like historical. You can look this up yourself.
right. But like,
And he said that he said some choice words for Pat Buchanan over it. I understand both sides' reasoning on it, and in later years they reconciled over this.
yeah.
But like, yeah, the whole point was like Pat Buchanan was like, I don't care what he said. I'm not going to say anything about him. And Trump was like, no, you have to denounce that guy because he's a piece of shit.
Yeah,
And they turned around and tried to make that an association with Trump and David Duke. And it's like, yeah, the association is Trump thinks he is a piece of garbage.
Right, and that's what I'm saying is like the corpo media was like harping on that thing for like forever. But yet, have they said anything about like Rashida Tlaib being like praised by David Duke? No.
No, they don't fucking care. They don't fucking care that she's openly anti-Semitic in the fucking floor of the fucking house. And she has been for years. This isn't new for her, especially her and Ilhan Omar. If you haven't fucking heard them give their spiel about like how Israelis are occupiers, then you haven't been listening, because they've given... AOC hasn't. AOC said one thing about Jew shit and then got educated by like the ADL.
Yeah.
But even now she's standing with Palestine because it's the trendy thing to do on the left. I get it. And it seems to be they want you to have the trendy thing to do on the right, be like unironically, enthusiastically pro-Israel. But my heart in any war situation, and this is why I'm anti-war universally across the board, is to the other people that are there.
Right. Well, I mean...
And that doesn't matter. I don't care what flag their fucking parents wave. I don't really care. I just wish people would stop killing each other. That's my sentiment. It's corny, true. What else do you want, though? Both their holy books say you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. No,
But like, it is what it is. Like, what are we supposed to do about it here? And they want us to like constantly focus on it and pick a side and get angry at each other. And my God, they tried to scale the fucking White House walls. For fuck's sake, January 6th, they barely did fucking anything. They're trying to get in there and kill Joe Biden. And what are you going to do about it? Is it a terrorist group yet?
Yeah, like...
He doesn't go far enough into one of their pet causes that they just found out about 2 weeks ago, but it's fucking trendy. So these white women are good and out there fucking going for it. They don't know a goddamn thing about the Middle East.
Yeah.
They don't know a goddamn thing about Judaism. They don't know a goddamn thing about Islam. They don't know a goddamn thing about the history of the colonization of fucking Israel. None of it. But they're damn sure they're on the right side of it. And then so the other side, it doesn't matter how many you kill. You can't have empathy for the bad guy. Come on.
Yeah.
And you're always the good guy of your own story, and your story is now attached to these guys, so they're the good guy.
Yeah. That's the whole thing, right?
I pray everybody stops dying for this and learns to live in peace. That's what I pray for. If that makes me anti-Semitic, so be it. If that makes me anti-Islamic, so be it. But that's the truth.
I mean, at this point, I've been accused of both, so like, you know,
it's whatever, man. I wish people would stop killing each other. I'm not a big fan of holy wars.
Yeah, I mean, and historically, they don't end well either. Just look at the Crusades.
It is the Crusades in a way.
Yeah. Well,
it's still going on.
Well, I hope it doesn't last. With
the Christians have just moved aside for various reasons.
Yeah.
Mostly America, and like there's an element of that in Zionism, right? Like Christian Zionism.
Yeah.
Some of them, that's their reasoning for why they're so enthusiastic, is they think that if they bring the Jews back to Israel, that eventually the temple will get rebuilt and they will bring about the end times. That's literally the point of being a Christian Zionist,
right?
Is that you want to bring about the end times sooner. They don't even actually really give a fuck about Jews if you think about it. They're the vessel that you need to get your prophecy started. So you help them get there.
Yeah, no, you're right. So, all right. Well,
I
that's
just care about
about
there's kids getting bombed on either side, and my heart goes out to them, and anybody else that's losing family members, and I just wish that would stop. Is that too corny? Is that too are we in that jaded of a world? I can't even say that.
not
I hope not. You
in my
take it home,
book.
man.
So, but anyway, well, I mean, I think we've I think we kind of covered all of our bases. We brought up AI while everyone else is talking about foreign wars. We're talking about stuff that is going on here at home. Because we do try and be different here on the Whitfield
And it's going to be
Report.
decided in the election inevitably.
Yeah.
This is a Joe Biden executive order. This is another thing you can run on free if you unshackle AI.
Yeah. And
Hashtag free AI.
Yeah, and if one thing I'll save this for the next episode, but Elon just released X.AI, so we'll see how that goes. Haven't had a chance to play around with it at this time, but maybe
Fix your website.
Yeah.
Anyway, go on.
Yeah. Well, also X/Twitter keeps crashing too. So
every now and again it says that y'all last posted in 1969.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but all of a sudden everybody posted nothing in March 3rd, 1969.
I wasn't even born then, so
I know, but you posted something, and so did everybody else on my fucking feed for 2 hours.
There was a bug where I literally had to type out your whole handle to tag you. It wouldn't populate in the little field, which that's terrific. I had to double check to make sure you were still following me and vice versa. That's lovely. So
fix your shit, but thanks for the AI, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that you can't even use because it crashes every time you try and sign up for it. You get a 404 error. So
brilliant.
Lovely. Yeah, now I'm really feeling good about Tesla's software updates. So thank God I don't need a software update to use my wheelchair, because if I did, I'd probably be fucked. But anyway, we'll see you we'll see you on Wednesday, folks.
5G on that bitch.
And hopefully we'll have some more.
Program your brain into the communist gangster computer god.
Yeah. See ya.
Mull that one over for the next couple days, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks for listening to The Whitfield Report on the NGC Network. Please visit Sam's website at www.thesamwhitfield.com and support Sam on Patreon at patreon.com/Whitfield Report. Until next time, God bless, God save this great nation, and God, freedom, legacy, in that order.